Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is presented this year by Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. If you follow this podcast, then you know I had a chance to drive a Townsend Honda CR-V late last year. Besides its really impressive gas mileage, up to 34 miles to the gallon, I loved the backup camera and ease of handling through those Appalachian twists and turns, from heading off the parkway to street parking in downtown Boone. Buying your Honda from Townsend Honda means purchasing from a family-owned company built on service and connection with its customers. And they want to remind you of the joys of a jaunt down the road. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory, or if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Honda salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. The Southern Fork's culinary sponsor is Smithy Ironware. Founder Isaac Morton was one of my early guests on this show, and I've been honored to watch from courtside seats as his passion for quality-built cast iron started with a range of cast iron skillets, including my beloved number 12 skillet, and has now grown to include a small line of carbon steel cookware hand-forged by blacksmiths on the old Charleston Naval Base, and also cast iron Dutch ovens. As a cook, I can vouch that Smithy is a true culinary partner to me in the kitchen too. Just check my Instagram feed to confirm that. And the more I use it, the more I look forward to using it again. See the full line of Smithy Ironware at thesouthernfork.com's Shop the Show tab. And remember that something as well made as a Smithy is an heirloom meant for everyday enjoyment. Use it well, use it for life. Few restaurants have made a more significant impact in the Southern culinary landscape in such a short amount of time than the Grey in Savannah, Georgia. Housed in a restored 1938 Greyhound Bus Terminal and led by co-partners Chef Mashama Bailey and John Morisano, the Grey at once challenges and comforts with every plate of food that is served. Bailey's seasonally shifting menus are always delicious and at once feel familiar, yet deeply rooted in her own varied culinary influences. And the space itself, once segregated, fills with a diverse crowd who are there not as a quick stop, but for the main event of an evening. The restaurant was named Eater Restaurant of the Year for 2017 and 18. Bailey won Best Chef Southeast in 2019 from the James Beard Foundation, and that same year was also a featured chef on an episode of Netflix's Chef's Table. In 2020, they pivoted like the rest of the industry and added luxury yurts to a courtyard space for dining. And this year has seen the release of their co-authored book, Black, White, and the Gray. Welcome to the Southern Fork, you two.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. We're tasting, what are we tasting?
A Pinot Gris and a Gertz.
The Pinot Gris, okay. The Gertz is good.
Gertz is good.
Yeah.
They're Alsatian.
Very good. Very, very good.
I like that word, Alsatian.
It's such a good word, right?
It is a good word. And I feel very
You feel smart saying
smart
it.
when I say it. I'm like...
Well-traveled.
And I think it goes well with the janky headphones that I have going on here. But we are sitting upstairs in the Gray conference room.
It's the Gray shower. It's called the shower room. It's one of our private dining rooms.
Oh, I love it. Well, I came down here today because I'm so excited about your new book, which is titled...
Black, White, and the Gray.
Yes, and it is one of the most unusual books that I've read in a while. It's co-authored for real, and Mashama, you're in, I mean, for real. Lots of time, we know how the business is.
Oh, no, the first rev was not for real. Right. That's why I'm laughing, because the first book that we thought we were going to release a year ago, almost to the date, in 2020, it was not a co-written book. It was really sort of just it was Jono's book, really. Mm-hmm. And through, friendship, fellowship, people just being generous enough to read it and give us their honest opinions, we knew that we had to kind of go back. My father read it. He was very kind, but he wasn't happy with it. And and I had to pull the information out of him. But finally, he was just like, we need more of you. There's not enough of you in the book. And so now I'm very happy with it. And thank you, because now I do feel like it's a co-written book.
Well, and it's the typeface is unusual, which all of these things in the publishing world means that you're fancy because they did something different. But it definitely feels like an inside the actor studio kind of conversation back and forth.
I think that's a really good analog. Yeah.
Well, thanks. You can.
I mean, neither one of us are that guy. What's his name again?
James Lipton.
Yeah, we're not him. But
I'm not him either.
Well, you can try.
But I can try. That back and forth, last year I requested to come down and interview you, and they said, they're in Paris. Right?
Like, ain't no book. There's no book.
There's no book. And they're in Paris working on it. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like, it's uncomfortable. I mean, y'all are vulnerable, like in a big way about your relationship, about the problems with the opening and building. I mean, all of it. How did you navigate that when you're reading the other side of your story?
Well, I would just like to say that fellowship is also an excellent word, and I've not heard you use that related to the writing right now, but it really was. And I know that you were talking about some of the people who read it on our behalves, but it also was really great fellowship between us, because I always wanted Mashama. I always wanted to co-write a book with her, and I did, and I mean that sincerely. Like, I thought our story, just like The Gray, like it's a story about not just two people, but about a building and about a city. And so, like, the more of those elements you could bring into it. And so when Mashama didn't want to write it at first, I was not crushed, but I was really bummed. So when she agreed to get involved, like, I have to say, for the first year, it was hard because we know each other really well, and we know when the other one is into something, and we know when they're not. And she wasn't that into it at first. And it was those reads, right?
Yeah. It's funny because as we're talking about the book and I'm listening to Jono and how his initial feelings towards my reaction, not wanting to co-write the book with him originally, I'm a little surprised by that, because maybe I'm just projecting, because he had already, he shopped the book and he talked to all the people, and I felt kind of bad. I was like, I don't really want to be on this book, and this is something that you really want to do. And not that by any means I thought it was going to be about me, but I just didn't want to lessen his joy or his accomplishment. You know, I wasn't sure if you wanted that, you know? So I was just sort of like, you know what? This is you, like, you've already pretty much done the majority of the lifting to get it to this point. So, you know, you should have at it and like have a great time with it. And I think and so that was part one. And then part two, when I agreed to co-author the book, there was a rewrite that happened. And that's when it got a little cagey. It was like, read the book. And I was like, eh. And then it was like, well, all right, you're on the book. I'm going to rewrite the book. And I'm like, oh, I want to read the book. He's like, no, wait, wait a little bit. I'm not finished with it yet. And when I did get the manuscript, it was raw. I don't know if it was, I would say it was raw, but it was like, it was definitely, hard to hear. I couldn't relate. I couldn't empathize. It was just like receiving brand new information.
Right. And that's what I mean. You both say things that are hard to hear. And I'm sure, I mean, you said them to each other first through this manuscript. And there seems to be a lot of that back and forth, but then to kind of do that like in a
we had never said hard things to each other before, other than as it relates to the business, right? And that kind of hard thing was the food wasn't good last night, or you really screwed up that meeting with our management team, you know, like it was that kind of hard. We would talk about race, but not in terms of each other, in terms of our team isn't inclusive enough. How do we attract a more representative group into the restaurant? Those were our conversations about race. So the first time that we addressed race directly with each other than in sort of a joking way or in a superficial way, was when I delivered the manuscript to you, right?
Yeah, it's like one of the scenes in the book is when my nephew is at the house and he's probably like 7 or 8. And, you know, he is notoriously like been a terrible eater. And we are like pulling out like, you know, marinated olives and like ratatouille that's on the grill and crayfish.
Crawfish that day, yeah.
Yeah, and like my parents are kind of digging in and we're all digging in, and here this 8-year-old is looking at this food like, ugh, you know? And
we were at my house.
And we were at his house.
Barbecue at my house.
And, you know, it was Mother's Day weekend or something like that. But my mom and dad were in town. And, you know, even Malik asking for watermelon, which he loved. He was like a maniac for it, especially in the summertime. That was like literally what the kid lived on. And fried chicken, like you think of those things and you're like, yeah. But then when you look at it from Jono telling the story, you're just kind of like, ooh.
It changes the prism and what you see it through.
Yeah.
So
it's funny though, on that moment, we were standing in my kitchen because we were trying to get food in the kid's belly, right? Because he hadn't eaten. And I'm like, Malik, I got tuna fish, I got chips, I got like these really stale cookies. Like, you know, mine and Carol's pantry is not a full one. And he's like, do you have any watermelon or fried chicken? And I just sort of stopped in my tracks, and Mashama and her sister both kind of looked at each other and burst out laughing because they were willing to acknowledge what had just happened, in that this kid was fulfilling a stereotype that is age old in, you know, this white guy's house. And I literally was like, don't say anything. Don't move your face. Don't twitch a muscle. Just stand there stoic and let this pass, because I didn't know how to navigate those waters at that time. We had just met a few months prior.
Right. So seeing that scene in the book and not having a reaction at all in the moment, and then seeing it in the book is kind of like, oh wait, like I just connecting the dots and how the sort of like the information about the relationships and the differences in our relationships are being collected throughout our sort of time together was really shocking to read when I wasn't prepared for that type of story.
I totally get that. And I'd love for you to talk about that taking race into your personal conversation, I think that there is a resonance there for the larger national conversation right now. We're not in our space very often talking about our own interactions, right? We're pointing at other people's interactions, but not sitting in our skin, whether it's white or black or, whatever. Yeah. And I think that navigating your personal and professional relationship through that lens, it's got to have shifted the way you work now, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The whole book is basically an exploration, at least for me, I can't speak for Mashama, but this whole experience, frankly, which has been going on for, I think we're coming up on 8 years or whatever since we met, for me has been, it started out in an exploration and being a restaurateur and ended up this really introspective thing about almost every aspect of my life, like every single one of my shortcomings and flaws, of which there are many. And I don't say that, I say that sincerely, and I have a lot of shortcomings, and this has exposed all of them. Yeah, being in this relationship, running a restaurant, doing something brand new, a new city, being in this partnership with this woman who never challenges me in a way that is nefarious or hurtful, but is always challenging me. And I think we challenge each other to be more honest and more more transparent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good word. Mm-hmm. And so the whole thing, and so race is whether, I don't think either one of us recognized it in the beginning, that race was going to be such a fundamental part of this discussion and this relationship. But then in retrospect, it's like, how could it not be?
In retrospect, it was there all along.
Right.
Like, it was there in every single conversation, but we never really took it outside of the conversation we were having. We never really thought of how it appeared to our staff, the two of us standing together, owning this space. And for me, I think that I think I came down to open a restaurant, and I think being a business partner would be cool, but, we'll see how it goes. I'm invested. I'm here. I want to be in the South. And I don't think I was really sort of looking for more than that. I wasn't really looking to get that close to him, Mm-hmm. And I didn't think...
And I was like, we have to be family.
Yeah,
He's like, we have to be very close.
Yeah, very close.
I remember that passage. She was like, he would text me all the time. Oh. And I would only talk to him when I needed
Well, there was
something.
the one night, and this is an exclusive for the Southern Fork.
Exclusive for the Southern Fork. You heard it.
Before Mashama moved down here, I texted her one night, and I was like, because I finally found this person that I could, even though it was such an early part of our getting to know each other, like we were literally getting to know each other, but we had all these really good talks together. And I texted her one night, it was like 10:30, 11, and I was like, getting ready for bed. And I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed, talking to you, and I miss you. And she's like, don't get creepy, and I remember that.
I would have texted the same thing, Michelle.
You know what? And I was like, enjoyed the conversation. It's so hard to navigate the world today.
It is. This idea here, I think Southern Fork listeners, we're talking in shorthand, but this place that we're sitting in is the definition of place making. Mm-hmm. And it's also making your places in your lives, right? Mm-hmm. And I never really understood that word of placemaking, but that point of you two standing in front of your staff and just what that looks like, and gender roles and all kinds of things. Now that you've lived in this building, do you feel that the history of it as a segregated space has receded as you've layered over new places that you're making with this restaurant?
I think that's a question for Mashama. I will just like to set the context of that. Like, we are sitting in what was the white women's, that was to your left, the powder room, and we're sitting in what was actually the stalls, the toilets. That term sense of place, you're saying placemaking, sense of place is something that has always been important to me in everything I've ever done. So, that was with intention, but I'll turn the real question over to you because
I think the short answer, I'm not going to give you the short answer yet. I think that the way this country has been layering on top of one generation after another generation after another generation, being in a town that was probably, one of the first towns or first places in this country where Africans were brought over in chains, being in a city that was built by African enslaved people, looking at the structure of the makeup of government and the churches as safe places. I don't think it ever recedes. I do think that it blends and morphs into another form and another part of the story. So I think what's going to happen now is when people look at this building, they're going to talk about the restaurant that was here and talk about the chef and the partner and the business partnership that they had together. They're not going to necessarily, they're going to say it was in this station, but the station doesn't represent that. The station represents change. And so I'm constantly
kind of cool.
reminded of what these spaces meant. When I give a tour to a new employee, I'm like, listen, this is the general waiting room. This is where the colored folks waited. This is where the white women were. This is where the white men were. And so I'm constantly, we constantly refer to the different areas as race, in a form of race, in a form of color, I should say. But I just think that as, 50 years from now, I don't think people are going to be saying they're going to be referring to
the restaurant,
whatever it is. Yeah, right. Whatever that
hopefully
thing
it's
was.
The restaurant 50 years from now. That'd be cool.
Maybe 5.
Damn it.
But I think that that's an important question because both of you are creatives. And so you're in a place where you're creating an experience, you're creating an aesthetic. And I've, done enough of these interviews and been fortunate enough to sit across from enough chefs and culinary professionals that I know that it feels like a bit of a play, like that evening, the doors open, the curtains part.
Showtime, yeah.
And it's like some nights are, it's like a long running Broadway play. Some nights, you're hitting it, the audience is there. The other nights it's not. But in that creativeness, there's an aesthetic thread at this place that I rarely see. It's not as cohesive in most of the restaurants in the United States. And then if you take however you want to divide that, most of the James Beard nominated restaurants or most of the top, whatever, however you want to explain the fine dining or that kind of thing, that intentionality, like in your menu and your choices and like in the book saying this can translate to whiting and coleslaw, but it started in this place in Italy, and so there's that thread that you can taste, you can feel it, you can see it, all of that. How do you build that layer? This is another layering question, but how do you hold that line while still creating seasonally and every night? So that's kind of like staying the same, but also changing all the time.
So I'll just talk to the design, and that was easy in a way, because the design brief when we worked with Parts and Labor, Jeremy and Andrew, was really simple. It's like we have this amazing example of modern architecture, which there's not a lot of it in the South unless you get down to like Miami, but like in the deep South, there's not a lot of it because it's really old for America. And so the design brief to those guys was like, don't screw up the bus terminal, right? And let's do everything in homage to the building the architectural integrity and the historic integrity of the building. And we just picked the right guys to get in business with, right? And they got it in one, and they had never done a preservation project before. And so that part, it was hard to, less is more, and minimalism in terms of design and architecture is harder to pull off than.
And this isn't a personal home. This is getting a lot of use by a lot of people. So it has to be durable
it has
as
to
well.
be durable. And so that was it. And so, between Mashama and me and Jeremy and Andrew and the preservation architects, Felder and Co., who are local in town here, I think that by now we can say we got it right, in terms of the menu and, all of that. Like I'll just set up, like we literally talked about every detail. We talked about every piece of glassware. We talked about every piece of purchase furniture, and we talked about all the menu all the time.
Yeah, the menu was the hardest for me.
It was the hardest, I think.
Because I wanted to come from an honest place, because I knew that place would be consistent. And I knew that place would evolve with me.
Will you repeat that? Because that's like
I was not pouring her wine.
That was the on being moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I wanted the menu to come from an honest place, because I knew it would be authentic, and I knew that it would grow with me.
And it would be consistent, because you could go back to that well because you knew of it.
I knew it. I was familiar with that well. I needed the menu to resonate, and it didn't matter where I went. It didn't matter what influenced it. I needed it to be in my language. And I sent the first menu to my mother, and the very first menu, we went to Italy. We had eel and cabbage, and the very first menu, I managed to find eel and did a braised eel and cabbage dish on it. And my mother saw the menu, and she immediately went to a memory of her father bringing home eel like every once in a blue, because that's what he would catch. And my grandmother being all pissed off about it because she had to like kill a snake basically. And cook it for dinner.
Skinning alone is like
skinning eel is hard.
Oh, it's like a catfish from hell.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
It is actually, yeah.
So to go from Italy to the west coast of Italy back to the east coast of the South, and to put something on the menu that's really was like a straight ripoff, and my mother to have a memory that came from that, I knew that I was sort of tapping into the right place.
Right.
And Jono is opinionated. He eats everything. He eats here all the time, which is great. And I think that also lends itself to the way the floor in the front of house resonates with the back of house, and that kind of dance in between, because he's constantly observing and critiquing.
Because it can be antagonistic.
It can be. So he's constantly eating the food and experiencing the service, so he has an opinion about it, an informed opinion about it, not just going off of a complaint or a praise.
Right.
It's an informed, formed decision.
Just to, on the eel thing, I think it's interesting because as a child, I grew up around the water. I grew up in Staten Island, but our big vacation every year was on the Jersey Shore, where my parents would rent this house, and it was our, my father was a fireman, so this was a big deal for them to spend this money on this. But we had a lagoon in our backyard, and you literally threw your pole out into the water, or the fishing line out, and you caught eels all day long.
Freaky.
Yeah, and no one
wants to swim in that.
But my grandmother, had, if you take any kind of fish and throw it in a pot with tomatoes and make like Sunday sauce with it, it's like it's delicious.
Right,
so we grew up
right.
eating eel and skinning eels, and and so when Mashama and I, that's one of those things where that word, being honest, it's like we didn't put eel on the menu. And it freaked some Savannians out because we thought it was cool because we saw it in Italy. It resonated with Mashama personally, and it really resonated with me personally. We went to this town in Italy to eat eel specifically. And that's why I think that the layers you're talking about that people seem to like ring true. It's because they are true. They're
because
not made
it's
up.
not, and this sounds very pretentious, but whatever, that's happened to me plenty of times before. It's not just a restaurant. It is, there's something, I mean, you got a chef's table. That was pretty cool.
That's super
you
cool.
know,
That was super cool.
It was super cool. It was beautiful. On those things, if I don't know them, I cry. But if I know you, the moment even a little bit, and we don't know each other well, we just, spent one bad round at a bad sports bar one day. But
So loud.
So loud. I was like, this is like, I'm a failure. Like I left and I was like, that was such the wrong choice. I couldn't figure it out. But I start crying immediately. And it's because it's so beautiful and then, that was
We're in a restaurant. Don't forget.
but that feeling, that intentionality, that honesty, but it's going to take the time that it takes to build this place. And I think we knew about it for a long time. Yeah. I think there's such a push in this industry to once you announce to really go, but there's an intentionality in your thoughts and how you're thinking about this and even answering my questions, and you as well. Has there been any relaxing of that thought process, or is it just how it rolls? It's like a daily meditation. It has to be that in that way.
I think for me, there is currently an organization of that thought process because there needs to be a rejuvenation after, heading at the heels of being in this town for 7 years and having a wonderful experience being here, traveling and chef's table and book writing in Paris. And it's been fantastic the last 7 years. But there is also you give so much that you have to replenish. Right. And I think for me, I think up until this point, I've been expecting to replenish by removing myself from, I'm going to leave for a week or I'm going to go away for the weekend. But I want to start to figure out how to replenish within the space.
Because you can't get back up to even.
Yeah.
You come back with a little more.
Right.
But then you kind of kick back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know of what you speak.
Yeah.
I know of what you speak.
That's sort of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I just need to I wanted to stabilize and become aware of when I need to take time, because that is going to, move me to the next level.
But that's the sustainability. We think about sustainability a lot and I talk about this a lot, as recycling or, green low flow toilets in the bathroom. But sustainability of a business is also the sustainability of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yano can go and go and go and go and go.
No, well, the only thing I was going to add to that, the gray is the thing for me, and I think for Mashama. And so that intention in our thoughts about everything that happens here, I don't think that's ever going to change, no matter how many other things we work on as we grow the business for, ourselves and for the team. And I just think that the gray is always going to be that thing we come back to, and the thing that always has to be most reflective of who we are.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think this kind of goes to pushing you to think harder, but I'm going to ask it anyway, since I ask it of everybody. Maybe take turns with the question, but what is really making you hungry? That rest space within your work is really what I hear you saying. And we've been through a year where you don't have time to rest. There is no way to rest.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I have a little bit of, and maybe this is stupid of me to say, super naive, but I have a little bit of envy of 2020 envy because because
People were making puzzles and you were trying to save your business.
Exactly.
I get it. I get it.
There were people were resting and like baking bread and like fucking hiking and doing all this stuff.
Making sourdough mothers.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like I didn't have 5 minutes of clear thought.
I've got so many emotions over 2020.
And there were points where we were closed. We were closed for months.
We weren't closed for that long in retrospect. Because the market was open.
We weren't, but there were moments, right? And I look back at 2020 and it was just really one of the hardest years of my life.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of me.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah,
and I know I'm not alone, but
yeah, and well, I think one of the things we learned as business owners is it was a tough time to be a business owner in 2020, and just because like your team is looking for you to make all the right decisions, and it was a pandemic of unprecedented proportions and economic crisis and all these things, and the lack of understanding or the lack of empathy was hard to bear.
Yeah.
But putting that aside, that's just me venting a bit. I don't know what drives me. I think the same thing that's always driven me, which is, you want to fulfill your ability, you want to fulfill your potential.
Right.
I've always, I think that in the book we both talk about like this imposter syndrome that what's her name from Facebook made famous when she wrote her book. But yeah, it's like, and
who?
The Lean In lady?
Yeah, Lean In.
Oh,
yeah.
Lean In.
Yeah,
Nice.
Lean In lady. What's her name? Sheryl Sandberg.
She's famous from Facebook?
She's the COO of Facebook. She still is.
Duh.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
Me too. I'm like, duh.
I got the Lean In part there.
Yeah, she's Lean
she
In.
wrote a book.
Imposter syndrome.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Sorry, you lost us there, but I know you were trying to be.
Yeah, no, instead, and the chip on my shoulder that is still there, and slightly angry person.
But you're warm. Today you're warm.
But you are warm.
I am warm.
Okay, so what is one aspect of your job, Mashama, that really meshes like a puzzle piece with an aspect of your personality? It's like a click.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. This is a really hard interview. It's like,
I know.
God.
I look
And
calm,
I listened to the podcast, and I'm like, I think this is the tough one.
I got my answer.
Okay. I was just trying to kill time until she came up with
Nice job, Bob Barker.
Sure, you're like, what am I gonna say?
Got to get the mic a little closer to sound warm.
You got to be warmer, Mashama.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Hello,
Hello.
Southern Fork listeners. So, I would say the thing that really meshes with what I do is I'm a very visual person. Mm-hmm. I like to see things. I'm searching for details. I'm looking for the thing that's off in the picture or the thing that's off on the plate. And I think that that's the part that kind of, the way that I see things really meshes with the way that I plate and also how I balance flavors. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I would say that running a restaurant is equal parts fly by the seat of your pants and precision, and having a space where those things actually dovetail at some point sets up great for me, because I love the impromptu-ness of guest experiences and when they go right and wrong. But I like our food to be right on. I like our service to be right on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just like, you said it earlier, it's a production, and productions are fun.
Yeah, they are fun. Not Bob Hope in a barn upstate New York fun.
Well, that could be fun.
That could be fun.
I mean, the Borscht Belt.
That's right. I know that reference. Okay. What keeps you up at night?
Keeps me up at night. Everything keeps me up at night. There's nothing that doesn't keep me up at night.
I'm with you on that personally.
Yeah, I'm an insomniac by habit, but I think that I mean, during the pandemic, financial failure kept me up at night. You know, the unknown keeps me up at night. And it's funny because like we always embrace, or Mashama and I have kind of come to this thing over the last couple of years where we're growing the business. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of unknowns when you grow the business, and there's a lot of risk taking.
And we haven't even talked about Austin. But
there's a lot of personal risk taking. And so mostly it's the team keeps me up at night. It's, you know, yeah.
I sleep like a baby.
Yeah, I was going to say nothing keeps her up at night.
I do. I'm a very good sleeper. But what will wake me up and what like...
Briefly, while you get a glass of water?
I literally could sleep like a baby, which I'm happy about. But I do think that things that will disrupt that are the things about the team and just making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do, and no one, like, if someone's upset about an expectation that we didn't fulfill is probably the thing that would eat at me until it's resolved. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also just over like an overload of emails or an overload of opportunity. Those type of things kind of push me. But mostly if I'm having a bad day or if I can't sleep, it's an interaction with someone that we've disappointed.
Got it. All right. I have a magic picnic basket. I don't really talk about it except on the show. And it is really awesome, although I don't use it well because I only time travel to build your dream meal. So since you built this restaurant together, I'm going to ask you to build a basket together. And I can go back in time to conscript anybody to make any specific dishes that you'd like. I can source anywhere, and I can cook a little bit, but I would be really intimidated to do so. But I can do a few things. Pound cake. I could bring a pound cake. I'd love to bring you some of your favorite things in this picnic basket, but they don't have to go together. So why don't you each pick a couple of things that you'd like for me to bring?
My grandmother Geneva's dressing.
Cornbread?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No one can make it like her. Mm-hmm. No one can make it like she did. I try. And my mother is good. My uncle is the best, but hers was awesome. And I just recently talked about cooking collard greens, and the best collard greens I've ever eaten in my life were not only hers, but she had pigtails in them, and they were fantastic. I got Jono's attention. He was kind of drifting off until I said pigtails. And then he's like, I don't know. But
I feel so much pressure now.
But those are my first two that I'll throw in the basket.
So I was like going to go with a dish that had nothing to do with my grandmother, and then I was like, damn, she brought up her grandmother. I love restaurants, and there's a dish that I've been obsessed with since I ate it the very first time, and I remain obsessed with it, which is it's called haricot de mouton, and it's from this, like lots of places in France make it because it's just mutton and white beans. But I ate it for the first time in 92 or 93 when I was living in Paris for work, and that would be the thing that I would like. It's my last meal. It's my, even maybe over my grandmother's Sunday gravy. I know that's sacrilege.
That's not sacrilege. That's just truth.
Yeah.
You're coming from an honest place.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, if people want to learn more about the Grey and these two and the book that they wrote, which is a page turner, let me tell you, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have images there of the faces behind the voices as well as an image of the book. You can also look for the book at the Books by the Show tab. If you buy directly from there, that helps the Southern Fork and these two at the same time. If you like what you hear, I like doing this. It's really fun. Even when I break my headphones. So please subscribe and dig into the archives. There are more than 200 episodes that you can catch up on while you're feeding your sourdough mother. And thanks so much for having me here.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. This was
Thank
great.
you.
Super
this was
fun.
Really fun.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?